we pretty much got the 10 teams we want.
Yeah.
So we can talk. I think maybe just talk playoffs, because we know who's going to be in, basically. I mean, it looks like Colorado's going to be in for sure. I mean, unless they blow it.
Yeah,
that's the only. That's the only one.
I was
saying that's kind of cool about Minnesota. I'd like to ask them about that too.
Okay. I'm gonna let you guys do most of the talking.
Oh, let's go ahead and do our little preview thing.
Okay.
Yeah, let's do that. Get that out of the way so Barry doesn't have to wait.
Okay.
I got a funny little story, quick one to tell you too there.
Well, welcome. You're listening to Sports Econ 101, the show where we discuss sports topics from a business perspective. I'm your host, Edward Brown, along with my co-host, Bruce McGowan, longtime sports radio personality. Now, today we have a guest, don't we?
Yes, we do. We got Barry Bloom from MLB.com to talk about the upcoming baseball playoffs, which I think are going to be a lot of fun this year, as usual.
Yeah, one of the things I wanted to ask him is, this is one of the few years that it's like the teams they're either way ahead or they're just completely out of it.
Yeah, it is interesting. I mean, you look at Cleveland, Los Angeles, Washington, Houston, all four of those teams just blew away the competition. You wonder how good are they going to be in the postseason? Did they save anything? You want to save it for the postseason. The hottest teams usually win.
Yeah.
Sometimes the wild. I remember when in 2002 we had two wild card teams in the World Series, the Angels and the Giants, because they were the two hottest teams.
So the Dodgers were on quite a slump, weren't they?
They were, and they seem to be coming out of it. They seem to come out. By the way, I just wanted to get kudos into rookie Deshaun Watson of Houston. I heard a story today through the media that he donated his entire $27,000 first NFL paycheck to three women who work in the cafeteria at the Houston Texas Stadium, who had lost their homes during the hurricane, and he's become friends with them. And they've had some rough times. So he just said, I'm going to be making lots of money. I'm going to help these gals out. They need the help. So, I mean, isn't that nice? That's a feel. So we hear all about selfish athletes and athletes who won't stand for the national anthem and athletes who get into trouble. And then we have a guy like this. And there are more stories like that out there. And I wish we could tell more of them because I think people need to hear that.
Once we find out more, we will tell more.
Yes.
All right. At each commercial break, we're going to ask a baseball question because we're
baseball.
We're going to baseball because we're going to have Barry Bloom on.
Barry Bloom.
All right, because talking baseball.
Bat Bloom. That's what we used to call it. Well, a friend of mine, Sam Skinner, used to sit in the park about it. What you doing here, Bat Bloom?
All right, this segment of Sports Econ 101 is sponsored by Pacific Private Money, providing mortgage investments still currently yielding over 7.5% fast. In fact, last month it was 8.14%.
Nice. Sweet.
Doesn't get any more conservative than that. Check them out at pacificprivatemoney.com. You'll learn all about them. Don't touch that dial. Sports Econ 101 will be right back.
You got a head cold?
Got some kind of throat headache.
My daughter's had that thing.
What's going around?
Poor Molly. She went to her therapist yesterday, and it worked really well. She was telling me this morning. She goes, she really likes, because she needs to talk about, her stress. But it freaked her out last night when Colette was getting sick. And Colette, sometimes everybody gets a weird thing like a migraine or whatever. And I asked her, I said, is it your medication? She goes, she thinks it probably is. It hasn't been that bad, but
no, the thing is, I mean, you guys are facing a different thing than typical mommy being sick.
Yeah, no, it's hard. I had a rough day with it yesterday. I was trying to hold it together and not, break up in front of my daughter because that's the last thing she needs to see is dad getting all, because I was in a bad mood to begin with over this dog and my mom and then bit her. It's like, I don't need this.
I'm glad I didn't get on your
No, I can't imagine you getting on my dad's side ever. Come on, man, you're too nice a guy.
I try to keep it that way. All right, so let's get Barry on.
Let's get that blue. So it's a real nice day down in the desert today.
Yeah, I was in Tucson last. It's beautiful. Yeah. Great weather.
That's a nice area. I think the weather's not too hot.
Yeah, it surprisingly was very good.
Now, hopefully he'll answer. He may look at your number and go, "Who is that?" But I told him we'd call.
Hold on.
No problem, Bear. You sound loud and clear, by the way, which is good. Bear Bloom. Who did this? Your wife did this, or your son?
Sister.
Your sister. That's right.
Yeah,
it's really interesting art. It's very different.
It took a long time because she cuts out from magazines.
Is that what it is? It's kind of like almost like my daughter does this. It's called collage. It's almost like a collage, but it's not. No problem, Barry. It is. It's like that. My daughter is so talented, and my wife with art. And they both go. It's cute. They go to a clay class together.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's good.
yeah.
I used
So-
to do pottery.
Yeah, did you?
Yeah, like
Oh.
a freshman in high school, all through high school.
Wow.
I got to be,
Pretty good. Did you on the potter's wheel and do that whole thing? Oh, nice.
I wasn't very good at, free form.
Yeah, yeah.
Stuff. I just,
Yeah.
but the pot, I said, believe it or not, I actually still have some of the pots I threw.
Nice. I wonder why they call them throwing the pots. Because you put them on a thing and you turn them or
Yeah.
something. I guess. How's Eva doing now? Is she bummed about not having that job anymore? Is that pretty much a good thing?
Kind of a good thing, but she wants to stay busy. So
Yeah.
she's going to be.
Sounds like her boss was a jerk.
It was definitely different.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't all Eva.
No. Well, no, it never is. It's usually usually when a job goes south, I mean, there's reasons. Sometimes it's performance, but a lot of times it's just personalities don't mesh.
Yeah.
And that's,
I think they wanted to keep her in like a certain box, and she's a little bit more like, hey, come on, I can do all this good stuff.
Yeah, I know.
It seems like that kind of went against their culture.
Yeah, that's always tough.
You all set?
Barry, you ready to go? All right, man.
All right, we're going to get started right now.
Yeah.
Here we go. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Again, I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Bruce McGowan. Bruce, who's on the phone?
Well, I hate to sound like an old guy, but I just know Barry and I are the same age, and we've known each other for 40 years, more than 40 years, actually. We met at a Warriors game way back in the day when Barry was freelancing, and I was just getting started in broadcasting. It's a pleasure to have him aboard again with us. He's been with us from time to time. Barry's a longtime writer with MLB.com, and you can read his articles online. Go to MLB.com, some great stuff in there. And Barry, great to have you with us. And let's talk a little bit about, it looks like we pretty much got all 8 teams in, although Colorado, as we speak, hasn't clinched, but that's probably a fait accompli in the next day or two. What's your read on this postseason? Because Edward and I were talking about this off air about how you have 4 teams that just blew away the competition, and then you have a lot of hungry teams that are kind of trying to, coming under the radar. How do you look at this postseason?
Well, actually, you're back in the old wild card area. There's 10 teams.
10 teams, that's right. I'm sorry. Yeah, that's right. We got the 2 wild cards in each. Like the wild card game, that one game. I think it's kind of cool.
Like it. Yeah.
Yeah, I do. I do. I mean, it's just simple. I mean, baseball, a late table in the 90s, but every other sports league had already come to. It's like the more teams you keep involved, the longer in the season, the more fans are involved, more fans come to games. I mean, you're down here where, teams were finally eliminated in the American League like yesterday. And today, we're still talking about, even though the Rockies have a healthy lead with 2.5 games to go, it took 2.5 games up with I think 3 or 4 more to go. There's still a chance that they could fall.
Yeah.
It's a good thing, and it's a rare year, because as you pointed out, you have a bunch of teams that ran away with division titles this year, which kind of reminds me of the old American League initially when there was just no divisions.
Yeah, I was going to say, before 1969, you just had, the Yankees playing the Dodgers in the World Series. That was it, And so I agree that it makes for fun baseball.
1947 and 1966, the Dodgers and the Yankees and the Giants were in the World Series every year except 1948.
Mm.
One combination before the other.
Amazing.
Milwaukee Braves.
That went forward through, the Dodgers and the Giants moved to LA and San Francisco.
Yeah.
The Yankees were in every year in 64. Dodgers were in 65, 66.
Yep.
So the dominance of those 3 teams out of the New York area and where development of baseball came in. Certainly the Dodgers and the Giants were 2 teams that integrated faster than anybody else. The Dodgers did first, and the Giants didn't keep up with them. And then the Yankees were slow at it, but they were still a team that was so talented that with an all-white team, they won 5 World Series in a row from 1949 to 1953. Without even integrating until like the middle of the 60s.
Yeah, but Barry, let me
And that caught up with them in the 60s.
about that. For teams that took a while to integrate, how did they get the scouts out there to? I mean, baseball players are baseball players. You can look at talent, but with the Negro leagues, you had a lot of players. I mean, how many scouts were out there? You know what I mean?
Well, that's what the ethos, that came from the top of ownership down. And, with the Yankees in particular, George Weiss was anti-Semitic. He was racist. He was general manager of the team up until they got rid of him. Stango left in the next 6 years. But what happened is, if you look at the 60s, the Red Sox, so it was the last team to integrate it, and the Red Sox to 1957 to get to the World Series. And that was kind of an anomaly year before they really restocked. They got into the 70s where they really started getting less of the World Series in 75, less of in 78, less of the World Series in 86 for the Mets. And they had a core, of good black players at that point. But it set the Yankees back in that era from 1964 to 1976. It really set the Yankees back because they had not invested, or even in the early going, they had signed black players and have developing in the minor leagues. So their first round of black players was, after Elton Howard, who was obviously a good player, but he wasn't the top of the line black player from that era. Their next round was, Alvin Downing, Horace Clark, and Roy White. These were all good young players, but there's a reason why the 1964 to 1976 Yankees are called the Horace Clark era, and that's one of the worst eras in franchise history.
Horace Clark, I always remember that name. He was an interesting player. Yeah.
They were so able to develop.
Yeah.
If you look at the Cardinals, my favorite writer and old friend, the late David Halberstam, wrote a great book on the 64 Cardinals, how they integrated as quickly as they did, and they dominated the National League in the 60s because of the Blue Rock train. They were bringing in Bill White, Bob Gibson developing out of the system. They had tremendous black players on that team. A bunch of Hall of Famers at this point.
Kind of funny that St. Louis was really kind of a southern town, and New York and Boston are northern cities, and yet New York and Boston had ownership that was, as you mentioned, racist and behind the times, and St. Louis was a lot more, forward thinking.
Yeah, well, I think it was, because the Bushes were, a multi-national, they owned a brewery that was multinational.
Anheuser-Busch rather than George Bush, just to make sure that the audience understands. As a Bush with a C.
Going forward, they were also off the bridge, Ricky, drink.
Yeah.
Bridge, before he went to the Dodgers, he developed their minor league system in the 40s for the Cardinals.
For the Cardinals, yeah.
And their errors were, it's kind of weird with the Cardinals because they go ups and downs, but they are very dominant in the 40s, very dominant in the 50s, very dominant in the 80s, very dominant in the first decade of the 21st century, and into, as late as 2013, they were in the World Series.
Yeah.
They've gone through their spurts. But back again, only there's one New York team. Dodgers and Giants were way ahead of the game. And part of that, too, was that their ballparks were in definitively low-income neighborhoods. And they had to start catering to the people who were around them in the neighborhoods that was changing. As the neighborhoods around and still as over Harlem were integrating and becoming greatly Black and Hispanic neighborhoods. So they really had to do at a time where Gates was so important for the sport. It wasn't big television, radio money. So you have to start catering to the community.
Yeah.
And it reached a tipping point where white people didn't really want to come to those ballparks anymore. Even though we talk about or especially, the former commissioner, my friend Bud Silly, called it the golden era of baseball. Well, really not. I mean, there's a reason why the Dodgers and Giants left New York. I mean, Dodgers drew 1 million people. Their last game at Evansville defended them.
Wow.
With the Giants, the last they drew like 100 million in their last season. I think their last season they broke 1 million before when they won the World Series.
Yeah.
But and then after that, the attendance at the Polo Grounds was just more. There was no place to park.
Well, it's more of a football field anyway. Hey, Barry, stay with us. We got to cut to a quick commercial break. If you know the answer to this, we'll let you answer when you get back. Here's our first baseball question. Who was the first Major League Baseball player to have their signature branded on a Louisville Slugger bat? Interesting question.
Good.
All right.
Okay.
Email Edward at sportsecon101.com the answer to that question. When we come back, I want to ask Barry, because he's a historian, how did the St. Louis Cardinals in the 30s get the name the Gas House Gang? All right, don't touch that now. Sports Econ 101 will be right back.
All right.
All right.
So what you working on today, Barry? What article?
Because the thing I did on the Giants, right?
No, I haven't seen it. I haven't looked at MLB this morning yet. So what did you do? A little thing about Matt Cain?
It's basically, like right into where the Giants are going, with that core of the team, and whether again the Bobby Evans, certainly was like the focal point of it, but it's just they're now through that era. I mean, Cain is the last player who was there for Bonds, home runs, the 3 World Championships. That era is now over.
Yeah.
Where does the team go forward?
There you go.
Okay, yeah,
We can talk a little bit.
let's talk about that too.
Yeah. Okay.
After we get the answer to the 2 questions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Back and finish up where we were on going back to your original question.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or on it, but
Gotcha.
on the team this year.
Gotcha.
Okay.
I have nothing to say about that.
Yeah.
All right, so here we go. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Edward Brown here, along with Bruce McGowan. Here's our first trivia question. Who was the first Major League Baseball player to have their signature branded into a Louisville Slugger bat?
I'm gonna let Barry try to take a stab at that because I'm just I don't know. Barry, you have any idea?
I'm going to say Babe Ruth.
Before him.
Ty Cobb?
Before him.
A little bit before him.
How about
Who's the main man?
that would be Honus Wagner.
Honus Wagner.
Honus Wagner.
Yeah, isn't that amazing?
There you go.
Okay. And Barry, I know we want to go back in time for what we were talking about before, but I did want to ask you, how did St. Louis get the name the Gas House Gang?
Really, it's a good question.
Huh.
And it's not one of those things that I know off the top of my head.
Oh, okay. No problem. Bruce, you want to ask it?
No, I was going to say, talking. Look it up on Wikipedia.
Generally very heavy appearance.
Yeah.
Okay.
Interesting. Well, we were talking a little bit about off the air about the San Francisco Giants, who won 3 World Series in 5 years with a core of some great pitchers, Lincecum, Bumgarner, and Matt Cain. Matt Cain is finally calling it quits. He has not had a good year this year, and but it's nice to see that they're going to honor him on his birthday on Sunday. He'll pitch in his final game on Saturday. He gave a very emotional speech apparently yesterday in Phoenix, and I think you might have even been at the game, Barry, because you were down there probably covering the Diamondbacks Giants game. And what has Matt Cain meant to the Giants? I mean, you're not here all the time in the Bay Area as we are, and we know what he means. But from a national perspective, he's not a glamorous guy. He's not a real outspoken guy. He doesn't have the flashiness that some pitchers like a Kershaw or a Madison Bumgarner have. But it just seems like he sort of exemplifies old school baseball, if you can pardon me for using a term that's used too often. What's your impression of Matt Cain? Because you got to know him a little bit.
I think it's very interesting with Matt Cain because I found that with Matt going through when he was doing well, he was one of the most arrogant, unapproachable the Giants had in the clubhouse. And I over the course of years, I had a great relationship with Bob. I gravitated a lot like a lot of people did some Lincecum. Lincecum and I had a great relationship. You know, Baumgartner, that, you know, grounded, you know, Southerner, little to say, but, you know, is always very available. But, you know, Matt and I were kind of, you know, really never got along until he got hurt. And when he realized that there was the downside to the game, and he was struggling to get back from one injury after another, and I think it brought him downside.
Mm-hmm.
He started to become older. You know, some people take a long time to mature. He matured. Became much more accessible, I thought. And you know, the last couple of days, and this has all been going on in the Giants clubhouse, you know, where coaching knew to start. And there was a question about what was going to happen in the offseason, and he was mulling it and, you know, making a decision about it. It was really nice to talk to the last couple of days.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting. Your experience with him is a little different than mine. I got to know him when he was a rookie, and I had never had a problem. But I think one of the things that helped me out was I was working with the Giants flagship, and he knew that, and so he made an effort. But it is interesting how sometimes it takes players a while to warm up to the media and to just feel comfortable in their own skin. And I think Matt Cain has become that kind of guy. I want to get back to the here and the now of the playoffs, though. And, you know, you're down in Arizona. That team really intrigues me. That's a team that could give the Dodgers a lot of trouble if they win the wild card. You know, you look at the middle of that lineup, J.D. Martinez, an incredible season. You know, you projected over the course of 160 games, he'd be breaking all sorts of records. Paul Goldschmidt, Mike Lamb. I mean, that's a nasty middle of the lineup. How do you see Arizona and their chances if they go up against the Dodgers in the division series? If the Dodgers beat Washington, that's assuming they're going to get past Dusty Baker's Nationals.
The Cubs are playing Washington.
Oh, that's right. The Cubs are playing Washington, so they have to. Yeah, exactly. I'm sorry.
So let's take this in two parts. Let's go back to the original question that we digressed from earlier when we went into all the stuff about baseball history. This is a year where it's the worst polarization of teams in Major League Baseball that I've ever seen.
The worst polarization, you're saying? You know, the difference between the good and the bad.
Right. This is, you know, what you have in the playoffs this year are really the five best teams in both leagues. And the rest of the teams in both leagues pretty much stink. It's just, I mean, it's just, I've never seen more disparity in baseball than this year. And consequently, the good teams were beating on the bad teams all year. But you don't really have a sense of, you know, it's why, I mean, in the National League, they ran away from the NL East because the other four teams in their division are not competitive.
Well, do you think the Mets really couldn't help themselves with all the injuries they had? I mean, they were.
No matter why.
Yeah.
It's what it is.
Sure.
They were not competitive.
Yep, they weren't.
And from the get-go, they were not competitive.
Yeah.
And essentially, you know, you had three teams, the three teams in the NL West were competitive. Because the Dodgers, instead of all these bad teams all summer, they created distance in there. And they went 20 games up and 6 games over 500. They collapsed at the end of August. And, you know, and they had such a healthy league that even when the Dodgers had won 13 in a row, they could always cut Dodger market in hand.
Yeah.
They're 9.5 games out at this point. But the Dodgers having won 100 games, and then, you know, if they hadn't had that, you know, that bad spurt, you know, they might have, you know, been close to 116 and the record.
Mm-hmm.
So now you're where you are. Okay, you got that 5 teams in the National League really going up against each other. And, you know, by all rights, you look at the wild card game this year. Diamondbacks at home against Colorado was thinking of that. Yankees against Minnesota, you know, the Windy Gale with Severino on the mound. Against the team, Twins that never win the game. But these are these games. If those two teams don't win their games, they don't deserve to go on to play. But I think they, you know, the Diamondbacks, your point about, you know, where they are, they're such a dominant team this year. Everything is clicking. probably the best trade of the summer. And, you know, this guy had an epic September of the short. I mean, it's gotten down to historic numbers where, you know, he had tied Ralph Kiner's record yesterday for the most homers in a month. You know, he's right there with 35, 36 RBIs, the most RBIs in a month. Started the month with a 4-homer game at Dodger Stadium and never stopped. And it just seems like he's in one of these grooves where every game he's going to do something, and it doesn't matter. He goes to right field, then hits it at, opens to that, doubles, singles. You know, he's the hitter right now in this short period of time, and he's ever been.
He's like Roy Hobbs.
Hey, what do you think Aaron Judge will end up with homers?
Sorry?
What do you think Aaron Judge will end up with homers? How many?
Well, he's already at 50, right? So I mean, he'll be, you know, somewhere, you know, probably 52 or 53.
You know, it's interesting because I went to the last game of the season when McGuire was a rookie, and I remember he had 49 home runs. And Hal McRae, I mean, it was a game that did not mean anything. And Hal McRae was coaching for Kansas City, and he intentionally walked him.
Yeah.
I mean, I look at that and I go, and everyone was booing like crazy.
Yeah. Well,
It's like, you know, I mean, for what?
Yeah.
What? Why would you do something like that?
Comparison to, you know, what was it, 2 years ago already? It was 2 years ago already, 3 years ago, Derek Jeter played his last game in Yankee Stadium. And the Orioles clinched the day before was the bottom of the ninth. The Yankees had a runner on second base. Peter coming to the plate. They left Zach Britton, Tucker Schultz left Zach Britton in the bullpen. But the thing about that, I remember, was Mitch Jeter. He didn't walk Jeter. Jeter, in his last at bat, the Yankees didn't got a base into right field and won the game.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember that. That was a great moment.
My respect doing that. Just like you're talking about with McRae, the opposite.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And I said to him later on, I think at the winter meeting thing here, I said, you know, I have tremendous respect to your pitching for that situation.
Exactly. I mean, it's not like it's.
And he said to me, why do you do it? I said, but it's the right thing to do.
Yeah, I mean, it's good for baseball. You
Yeah.
know, and it's not like he's
Well,
throwing up a softball to him.
He had a good overview. He had the big picture in mind. You know, if back to Arizona, I don't want to.
Oh, wait, you know, we're going to catch another commercial
Yeah.
break there.
Well, we're moving some on.
It goes kind of
Yeah,
fast. No, but I like that when a coach looks at the big picture. I mean, obviously, if it's a game that, like, World Series game,
That's different.
Game 7 type of thing,
Sure.
of course you do something
Yeah.
different. But again, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You know, do what's good for
Yeah,
the
exactly.
game. All right, here's our second baseball trivia question. I have to name all three of them. Who were the first 3 members of the 500 home run club?
Oh, good one.
Okay,
All right.
and you'll probably know this.
Sure.
Of course you will. Look at it. He's got that. You can't see it, Barry, but he's got that grin on his face.
I'm going to let Barry answer that, though.
Because I know
He's our
all this.
baseball expert.
All right.
All right.
Don't touch that dial. Sports Econ 101 is going to be right back.
Appreciate you being available to do this, Barry.
It's good
Good
stuff.
stuff. How's Alicia doing?
That's great.
Good.
Have fun.
She's doing okay. I was telling Edward yesterday she had a negative reaction to some medication she's on. That happens once in a while. I've been freaked out my daughter. And, but you know, I mean, we have to deal with these things. So the cancer right now is kind of in a holding pattern. It's not doing anything, and it's been that way for a while. So we're just hoping that, she continues with the regimen and things keep going well, but you just don't know. So you take each day as it comes. It's hard. I think anybody who's been through this before with a loved one, a close one, can understand it. If you haven't, I have no concept of, what it was like or what it would be like, but I'm learning to live with it, and it's hard. It's kind of like almost being in a war, but you just handle it. You got no choice. So
Yeah.
it's either.
I've always been myself.
Yeah.
I've always felt that I was much happier doing with it myself than it was me. Not having to worry about
Somebody else. Yeah, that's an interesting point. In some respects, maybe in a weird sort of way, it's easier that it happens to you, and you can deal with it. But when it's somebody else and you don't feel like you have any control over it,
That's what it is.
I think that's part of it. Yeah. All right. Anyway.
All right.
No, you don't.
You just give a moral support, and obviously to be there for all the things that needs to be done, taking care of like the logistics of it, and getting back and forth to the doctor and interviews.
Yeah. Well, luckily right now she hasn't been debilitated at all by any of this. I mean, and her mental attitude has been great. She never gets depressed. She never gets negative. And I think having a young daughter makes a difference. If it was just the two of us, or we had a child that was out of the house and wasn't around, it might be different. I don't know. I think she's a strong person, though, an amazingly strong person. And I'm like this morning, she told me, she said, I felt really badly that, you had to take Molly to school today because you got home late from work last night, and I had to get to work. And then she explained what happened, that she wasn't feeling well, and I just felt really badly that I complained about having to get up at 7 o'clock and take my daughter to school after getting home from work from 1:30. But I realized what she's going through is nothing, or what I'm going through is nothing compared to her. So
yeah,
no complaints, no complaints. Yeah,
No kvetching.
no kvetching,
No kvetching.
no kvetching.
All right, you guys ready?
Yes.
Here we go.
Yeah.
Well, welcome back to Sports Econ 101. One more time, I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Bruce McGowan. Second trivia question. Who were the first three members of the 500 home run club?
Let's see if Barry knows that one. I think I have an answer, but I'm going to see if Barry knows it. Yeah,
Obviously, the first one was Bruce.
Correct.
Babe Ruth.
Yeah, there's no question about that.
Yeah.
Then if you think through off the top of my head, because Garrett fell short because he got sick. I think he finished like
Gary.
Oh,
Gary.
and that one.
490 or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't think Mitchell ever made it because of the war. I'm going to go Williams. Second one.
Williams, Ruth, and maybe Willie Mays?
No,
No?
you got Ruth in 1929. You got Jimmy Fox.
Oh, Jimmy
1948,
Fox. Yeah.
And then you got Mel Ott. in
Mel
1945.
Ott, yeah.
511, because I remember it's the same number as Cy
I
Young.
keep forgetting Mel Ott was not a big guy either, but he had this weird swing where he'd lift his foot. He was a left-handed hitter. He'd lift his right foot, and nobody else batted that way until I think Barry didn't Sadahara Ono, the great Japanese player, do that.
He did that. I remember.
Yeah. He sort of.
He had like 800 home
And he
runs.
said I guess he had studied Mel Ott when he was a boy and just kind of fell in love with that style. Well, we were talking earlier about these playoff teams, and I don't want to, spend too much time talking about Arizona because they're just one of 10 teams, but you cover them, and you're in the desert down there with them. Teams. Do they have Arizona? Phoenix is kind of an interesting town. It's sort of a place where a lot of people from other parts of the country move to. Do they have a hardcore following? Do people talk about them around town? Are they as popular a team as you'd expect them to be?
No. And I remember it, having been, this is like the 19th season, I think, or 20th season of Arizona Diamondbacks baseball here. And I remember being in San Diego in a similar situation when I covered the Padres. And they were there in '84, which was about 15 when they won, about 15, 16 years away from expansion. Now the Padres are a team with like 50-year history, so there's a huge base of Padres fans who are Padres fans. And the interesting thing about it, because I was looking at America's attendance figures, and that as bad as the Padres had, they draw out to the Diamondbacks by about 100,000.
Is that right?
And their average is higher. And I have no doubt that the situation is different. And then Padres were in a situation Diamondbacks are in right now. They'd be up over 1 million people because the destination ballpark is years from now, generational homegrown fan base. Some people from out of town like to go to that place.
Yeah.
Here you're in a situation where it's a lousy ballpark. The city, the Mexican County team are fighting over who's supposed to maintain it, and it's falling into it's a lousy shape.
Mm.
You've got summers here, and people leave here during the summer. They don't come here,
To vacation.
vacation.
Yeah.
It's tough.
Yeah, that's right.
As much you have, the big pro sports teams here, college sports teams, recreational sports.
Oh, it's a great sports town.
Are,
Yeah.
You have like Olympic, major league training franchises. Ballparks, franchises that work out here.
Mm.
I mean, there's a soccer team. There's so much stuff.
Yeah.
That where like any now, you're down to like one sports team.
Yeah.
and the Aztecs, and that's it.
Yeah.
The nature of it was different. But yeah, I mean, I was hard last night at the Diamondbacks fan base sold out the wild card game tickets. They're available wild card game tickets on Monday at like an hour after they went.
Oh, that's good. You know, because they deserve to have a great crowd there. That's a fun team to watch. I mean, I would love to see, to be honest with you, I would love to see them in the World Series. I know that the television moguls wouldn't like that because they're not from, they're not from LA, they're not from Chicago.
The rest of the world, if they go past the wild card game, start discovering them because they're probably the most underexposed to Major League Baseball.
Yeah.
Well, the 2001, against the Yankees, that was a really exciting series.
Yeah, that was. It was.
Yeah.
And speaking of teams that are under the radar, you mentioned briefly the Minnesota Twins who will play the Yankees in the wild card game and probably will lose. But just for Minnesota, after losing 103 games a year ago to be in the playoffs, that's quite an accomplishment. And I was listening to a lot of their players after they clinched a playoff berth the other night, and listening to Paul Molitor, who you know and I know is a great guy. They just have it's a wonderful mix of youngsters, mostly youngsters, and guys like Joe Mauer is still around. You never know. I mean, just for them to get to the playoffs, that's a great story.
Yeah, in fact, I bring my brother column on in August, early August, after the trade deadline, where they actually threw in the towel and traded people.
Mm-hmm.
There was, and the attitude there was, and then they ran off the winning streak, and all of the players had to do it. They were all pissed off at upper management doing it. They were going to dig in and play the best they could, and they just never gave up on the season. I just think it was tremendous.
Yeah.
That column, what happened? There's still a good run here. He's going to put them either at that time before the Indians went bonkers. They were like 5 or 6 games out of the division lead and well positioned for the wild card. Of course, the Indians won out, but the wild card they sustained it.
Yeah.
Oliver's one of the managers right now. In his out year, and there was some questions because of the change in management, upper management last year. He was still under contract for a year, so they kept him in place. There was a question of whether or not they're going to bring him back next year.
Interesting.
Now, I think that sort of answers that question.
That is interesting.
How can they not bring him back?
How can they not bring it back? Now, how about Cleveland? Now, is there any team right now? I mean, on paper and the way they've been playing, it just seems like they're the team to beat in the American League. But things can change in a short series. What's your observations of the Cleveland Indians? Because that's a team that, for a while there, was just on an amazing streak.
I've been saying so summer that they're going to win the World Series this year. The Kansas City Royals, support team. They were the team that most of the Giants on the last pitch of the World Series in 2014. And then in 15, they came back, used that as a rallying point, and then essentially clobbered the Mets in the World Series to win the World Series. And the Indians were the team that they went down to the last pitch last year before losing the Cubs in Game 7 of an epic World Series. They reconstituted. Unlike last year, if you remember, they went into September and into the postseason, and without their full starting rotation. Carrasco was out for the season. There were a couple of other guys. Salazar had some pitch, but he wound up as a bullpen. So essentially, they had 3 starters. They went all the way with. Not this year. This year, everybody's pitching. Carrasco's pitching great. Bowers had a great season. Kluber, for my money, he's the best pitcher in the American League. And it's hard, when you have Gio Gonzalez, Scherzer, and say the best pitcher in baseball. He's right up there.
Yeah.
And he's one of my favorite pitchers to watch. But if you talk about old school, this is a guy who doesn't throw max velocity every time he throws the ball. He sets up his fastball with breaking pitches. He throws strikes, which is my biggest argument. When we were kids, and I hate to go back to this, pitchers threw strikes. And they're also, with the East Coast now, where hitters are trained to go deep into counts, foul pitches off, and knock a starter out. When you have 100 pitches to work with, or 120 pitches to work with, you got to be economical on how you use those fish. It's not like when we everybody went out and threw 150 fishes every day.
Yeah.
Their arms were falling off.
Yeah.
So, I mean, so they were very economical, and hitters were so, intimidated by a lot of those guys that, if they got a fish to hit early in the count, they went for it. And those guys were good enough to get ground balls, and they didn't rely on the strikeout. And it's like, that's where Kluber is right now, and that's how good he is.
Yeah, it's interesting you bring up Kluber, and then you talk about a guy like Kershaw, who is, obviously the class, but he has not been able to break through in the postseason. And I'm wondering if that is weighing on him a little bit, or he seems like a very cerebral guy. I've spoken to him several times. I'm sure you've gotten to know him quite well. Is he kind of a guy that's going to let his past failures haunt him, or is he going to use that maybe as a motivation to sort of push him forward?
I think there's a couple of elements to this year. I mean, I think you're right. I think no matter what I say, Maddox was never a great pitcher in the postseason. I mean, he had his game, but by and large, he played the Maddox in the postseason. And a lot of it is he came in with an exact throwing so many innings this season, and when you get to the postseason, what you relied on during the regular season isn't there. You have to make adjustments on how you pitch. I don't think Kershaw's very good at making adjustments. Especially in the stretch, it seems like the Cardinals learned how to pick it up, and they just don't. He wouldn't make any adjustments. He refused to say, acknowledge that he was pitches, even though coaches, players, people in the front office, and the guys were telling him he was doing. I mean, this year is a little different because the Dodgers have a healthy starting rotation. And I can't imagine that they would have to use Kershaw on 3 days rest, like they've always done in the past.
Mm-hmm.
In the postseason, they could let him pitch, at every fourth day. He pitched a bunch of back. And it'll be interesting to see with all of that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's a mindset to this, and I was talking to both of you about this yesterday. For my money, I mean, we're talking about writing a column getting this tournament without Lowe and I hooked up coaching without Lowe because without Lowe has never participated in a wild card game. And they're like plumbers on how they prepare for this game. I said, well, if you talk to coaching, and Lavelle tells me, I'd love to, but I need to know if coaching knows who I am. I laughed and I go, look, I'll make sure he knows who you are. And I went and I talked about it. They hooked up. And the first 2 words that Bochy said was status as Bogart. This is a guy who basically 2 shutouts and 2 wild card games. Last year, one night, and also in that game, there was stuff that doesn't go into the 9th inning till the last weekend, the 3-run homer that won the game.
Well, I'm sorry, they can't trade now. It's a little too late.
That's how he prepared for those games.
Yeah, you have a pitcher like that. That's true.
Exactly.
Wow.
There is a guy in baseball, and I think that's getting into arguments with the first faction here. If I had the money and I was told, you got one guy at the beginning of the year, and this is the biggest game of the year, who's the best pitcher to do it? And my money would always be on that as
Yeah.
today.
Yeah, he's like the Bob Gibson of his era. He really is.
He's not that innate quality, being able to rise to and pitch it, and like a 0.50 ERA in the World Series.
Yeah.
Everything you need to know.
Amazing.
Hey.
I think it was Tree or Andy Baggerly the other day. I think it was Baggerly who said, if you talk to Bumgarner about this, you think you have a lower ERA.
Hey, Barry, it's been great to have you. Unfortunately, we got to get to another last commercial break here, but thanks again for joining us on Sports Econ 101.
And we'll keep up with what Barry's been writing at MLB.com. You can go to MLB.com on your smartphone or on your home computer and look at Barry's articles. He really knows his stuff.
All right, last trivia question. Who was the first player in professional team sports to receive a $1 million a year contract?
Oh, good one. All right.
Sports Econ 101. I'll be right back.
Cool. I wonder why Steve Baker kept calling me up.
He did the same for me.
You know, I asked him yesterday, a couple days ago, if he'd do it. And he said, "Oh, I'm out of town. I can't do it." And then he sends me a text this morning, right when we're talking. I can go at 11:30, and I can't go at 11:30. And then he starts calling me constantly. I don't get it. So I'm going to call him back and go, "What's going on?" Maybe he had his phone on automatic or something. It's weird. He's a strange dude, though.
He
a little different.
A little different.
Yeah. Well, I think he's going through some shit too with his wife, and
Well, they got divorced.
I know they did. And he found out she was cheating on him, and he didn't with one of his best friends.
Oh, is that what it was?
Yeah, I think that was how it happened. And he didn't have any clue. He had no clue. How can you not know if your wife is screwing around on you? You kind of read the signs. Maybe he just was too wrapped up in what he was doing.
Yeah.
And we're only hearing it from his side. Maybe there's more to the story,
True.
It takes two to tango, as they say. I can't imagine. I thought about how I do this, but I mean, first of all, at my age, but secondly, if you're married, how could you do that?
Yeah, and also, like, for me,
I just couldn't.
If I ever did anything like that, in 3 seconds, I'd have to admit it.
I couldn't. My wife would find out, but I mean, I just don't know how you do those things. I don't know how men and women cheat on each other's spouses. I don't understand them. I don't know how they do it. So,
well, you've got a lovely wife, and so that's why it's hard for you to even imagine it.
Yeah, I feel badly for Steve because I know he went through some rough times with that, but
yeah, sure,
things happen.
All right, we're gonna close this bad boy out.
Close this bad puppy out.
That's good stuff, though.
Yeah.
Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Last time for today, I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Bruce McGowan. That was really good with Barry.
Yeah, he knows his baseball.
Yeah. We got to ask him how he thought Houston was going to do.
Yeah.
And if LA was finally going to do something. Okay, here is our...
My picks, by the way, for what it's worth, Dodgers, Cleveland, with Cleveland winning it.
Gotcha. Okay,
Yeah.
But you know what? I think the Dodgers will get in this year.
I think they're going to get to the World Series. Too good a team.
I think they actually might just do it.
Of
course, Adrian Gonzalez.
The key is beating Arizona. If they can beat Arizona, I think they can beat Washington or Chicago.
Yeah.
Arizona's going to be tough.
All right, last trivia question. Who was the first player in professional team sports to receive $1 million a year contract?
Was it in baseball?
Yes.
It had to be during the 70s when the era of free agency occurred. It had to be the late 70s. And I'm stuck on that one. I don't know.
So far, you're exactly
a pretty well-known
player.
player.
You're all set.
Somebody, was he a hitter or a pitcher?
Pitcher.
Wow. Late 70s pitcher. Who were some of the great pitchers in the late 70s? I'm got a mind block here. Who was it?
The Ryan Express.
Oh, Nolan Ryan, who deserved every penny he got.
Absolutely.
Pitch was what, 46?
Something like that.
I think he was. He was amazing. I remember when he pitched a no-hitter against the A's. I was covering this. It was his sixth of his seven. He pitched 7 no-hitters. The PR guy for the Rangers said, "Oh, you can go talk to Nolan now. He's in the back on his exercise goal, working out."
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, well, this is why the guy's still such a great pitcher. He was 44 at the time.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to cut out. Here's our thoughts for the day.
Remember when he popped Robin Ventura in the headlock and was giving him noogies? I love that. Don't mess with the old guy.
I know. Well, it was kind of silly for Ventura to rush them out.
Yeah, it's like Nolan Ryan didn't do that kind of stuff. If he's going to hit you, he's going to hit you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right, here's our thoughts for the day. You only live once, but if you do it right, once is enough.
I thought Ian Fleming said you only live twice. James
that's
Bond.
true. Yeah, exactly. And
you only live twice, Mr. Ball. Mr. Ball. Yeah.
And the best view comes from after the hardest climb.
Oh, that's true.
You're a hiker, aren't you?
I'm a hiker, and the other day I climbed up in the hills above the beach and just spectacular views.
All right, tune in next week to Sports Econ 101. We're going to be discussing sports topics from a business perspective and asking more sports trivia questions. Thanks for listening. On behalf of our team, I'm your host, Edward Brown. We'll see you next week.
Good night, America.
So long. Good.
All that stuff I was saying about Steve Baker's on your webcast.
Oh, yes, it is.
Don't worry about it. I mean, who's watching it?